Hello and welcome to the Fighting Spirit Podcast. As always, I'm Jason, and I'm here to bring you your fight picks for UFC Fight Night, where Alexander Gustafsson will be taking on Anthony Lionheart Smith. So we're back from the layoff, we're back at it, we have all the fights crunched, we have debut bouts, we have regular bouts. Let's get into it with this main event. Here's the show. In this main event, we'll have Alexander the Mauler Gustafsson taking on Anthony Lionheart Smith in what should be a very interesting bout at light heavyweight. So we have Alexander Gustafsson, who's coming off a loss to Jon Jones, but before that, he did have some very good wins, right? He did defeat Glover Teixeira, he did defeat Jan Blachowicz. However, he did have that loss to Daniel Cormier, and before that, he lost in his home country, where this fight is being hosted in Sweden, in Stockholm, Sweden. So I think he's trying to avenge this loss from his previous outing at home in front of his home crowd. And that was a devastating loss. We saw Anthony Johnson take out Gustafsson in really kind of just a spectacular fashion. He knocked him out just a few moments into the fight. It was 2 minutes and 15-second TKO, and I really think that Alexander Gustafsson needs a good win here in front of his home crowd just because of how devastating it was last time. Anthony Smith, though, he also has his loss to Jon Jones. These guys are both coming off losses to Jon Jones, GOAT John Pico Jones, as I like to refer to him here. And so let's talk a little about the numbers here, just style, let's just get all of this hometown stuff out of the way. When I look at the numbers here, right, we can see Alexander Gustafsson and Anthony Smith very similar kind of stand-up style, the way that they fight. I really think that things are fairly even here, but we've seen Alexander Gustafsson handle guys like Jon Jones in the past where they almost give a run for their money. I don't think the last fight was necessarily as rough up until obviously the third round. I thought we saw Gustafsson at least put in a decent round, whereas Anthony Smith, even though he lost via decision, he was just turtled up in nothing but defense mode, and he really had nothing to offer Jon Jones. So just pure MMA math, I do like Gustafsson in this fight. And when I look at the numbers, like I said, the hands are fairly even. But I do think that Gustafsson has a slight edge when it comes not to the ground game, but the prevention of that ground game. Alexander Gustafsson has a very high takedown defense, and I think that actually is going to shut down this great kind of submission game that we've seen from Anthony Smith. He does have 11 submissions, 17 KOs over his 31 wins. This guy is dangerous. He does typically get decisions, and we know that Gustafsson's not necessarily a submission artist. He hasn't had a submission in really some time since we go back to 2011. However, he is very good at not being put on the mat, and he is very good as keeping it as a stand-up game. So I think that he is going to have a little bit of an edge there. He's going to take that tool away, that pathway victory from Anthony Smith, and I think that he's going to hang on the feet very well. He's got the home crowd there. I do like, ultimately, that's why I'm picking Alexander Gustafsson in this main event. In our co-main event, we'll have Volkan No Time Dynamite Hands Ozdemir taking on Ilir Latifi the Sledgehammer, or as I like to really call him, the Brick Shit House, because this guy is built like a Mack truck. He is a thick boy, and they're taking each other on in the co-main. So this is going to be a great fight as well. This one is kind of interesting. So we're kind of looking at a balanced fight. We have one fighter in Latifi, great ground game, good submission game, solid guy, likes to get it to the ground when possible, going up against a guy who likes to put guys out flat as quickly as possible. Ozdemir, 15-4, 11 of those are in KOs, and he typically likes to get it done early if he can. First round victory over Jimmy Manuel, first round victory over Misha Serkinov, first round victory over Peko Estevez, and before that, he did also get to decisions over Ovince St. Preux. However, we have seen Ozdemir a bit on the slide, right? He has losses to Daniel Cormier, which was for a light heavyweight championship, Anthony Smith, who's fighting in the main event, and Dominic Reyes via split decision. So I think we're going to see a guy with Ozdemir looking to get a win back on his card, right? Even though we've seen Latifi have some ups and downs lately, right? He with his loss to Corey Anderson. Before that, he defeated Ovince St. Preux himself and Tyson Pedro. But I don't think that this fight's going to play out as well for Latifi. Even though I think he's the superior grappler and his ground game is there, I think that Ozdemir just hits too hard and he's too rangy. Latifi, he's a thick boy, but he has some T-Rex arms out there. He does not have the reach, I think, to hang with Ozdemir in those early rounds. I think Ozdemir is going to get an early knockout here. I think that he's going to exploit that range from Latifi. However, if Latifi can close the gap, he can turn this into a dogfight, and he can fight in a phone booth very well with his short little arms for this 205 weight class. So I am picking Volkan Ozdemir here. We're going with no time, dynamite hands. Our next fight, we'll have a young lion taking on a sultry veteran. We'll have Jimmy Manawa taking on Alexander Rakic. And this is going to be a very good fight. This, if we could put Jimmy Manawa maybe in a time machine, would be a main event, because this guy has some devastating hands. He is a great boxer. His stand-up is phenomenal. 17 wins, 15 KOs. However, he is 39 years old, and he's going up against a guy who I think is on the incline right now. He is climbing. We got an 11-1 fighter, 8 KOs, 1 submission, and I think that Alexander Rakic is a little bit better here. Jimmy Manawa, 39 years old, great boxer, but he's losing a step, right? We've seen him take some nasty losses as of late, 3 losses in a row. Thiago Santos, Jan Blachowicz, and Volkan Ozdemir himself, who's fighting in the co-main here. I don't think Manawa is going to be able to avenge himself. I think he's too old. I think he has too many miles on him. And I think that Alexander is a guy on the, incline. I think he's climbing up. He's that shooting star type character right now, especially in this division that is kind of a little lacking for talent, right? So we got a light heavyweight fight here again. 3 of them leading out this card. I mean, these are some great light heavyweight matchups. These are probably some of the best you could really make. And I think that this guy in Alexander is going to continue to climb up this division. I think that Manawa is too slow. I think Rakic is going to be faster, more rangy, just kind of like a younger version of Manawa himself. I see him getting the victory here. I'm not sure it's going to be by KO. However, I can definitely see him getting the W. Nevertheless, we are picking Alexander Rakic in this bout. In our next fight, we will have Markon Armakani taking on Chris Fishgold. And so this will be a kind of an interesting fight. This is going to be a grappling matchup for sure, but I think it's going to come down to skills and a little bit of gym here. So for Mr. Finland, Armakani, he does train at SPG Ireland, and we have Fishgold training out of Next Generation UK, who's kind of on the unknown side, but in the past, we have not seen these SPG Ireland fighters really hold up on the ground like we would expect them to, right? We've seen Brad Katona, obviously Conor McGregor. These guys get chewed up on the ground. The only kind of standout we have here is Gunnar Nelson, who doesn't even train there anymore. So I do not have a lot of confidence in the ground game currently of SPG Ireland. We have Kavanaugh, who was, I think, the first Irish Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt, but something's lacking over there, I think. And I think we're going to see Fishgold again exploit that lack of ground game skill with this Markani fight. I think that Fishgold is going to get this thing to the mat in his typical fashion, and I see him getting a rear naked choke. I mean, he's going to get a choke one or the other. The guy has a great list of credentials here for his rear nakeds and guillotine chokes to victory, and I think he's going to do that to Armakani here. I think relatively equal hands, maybe a slight edge to Fishgold here, and, ultimately the edge I am giving slightly to Markani on the gym because SPG just is a good gym, but I think for this specific situation, this is not where Mr. Finland is going to shine, and I see Chris Fishgold picking up a win here in Stockholm, Sweden. Our next bout is kind of a coin flip here. So these are very similar in terms of numbers, but I do have a slight edge going to obviously one of the fighters. They'll have yet to have a tie. So we have Christos Giagos taking on Damir Hadzovic, the Bosnian bomber. And in this fight, I like Giagos just a little bit more. I think that these guys are very evenly matched, right? I think Giagos has a slightly better gym, though, coming out of Black House. So we have an Arte Suave Copenhagen fighter with the Bosnian bomber, but I don't think that gym, based on its fighters in there, has enough iron to sharpen iron, so we did give a slight edge to Damir off of that. Also, I think his hands are a little bit better, even though they both have 7 KOs apiece. I think that the hands are slightly better out of Giagos. I think he's just got better output and better accuracy, but, we have the Bosnian bomber coming off a TKO victory in his last outing. So, hey, these things are really tough to really take a call on. But ultimately, we are taking the Spartan here. I like Giagos. I like his gym. I think they can build a game plan. And I think Giagos gets the W here in Stockholm. In our next bout, we have Tanya Evinger, the bus driver, as I'm calling her here, because she does look like a bus driver, taking on the elbow queen, Lena Landsberg. And so this is an older woman fight. This, I think, is going to be a halfway decent bantamweight matchup, but I'm not really sure how to make a call here. So we have kind of a fighter in Landsberg taking on just a salty veteran in the bus driver Tanya Evinger. Evinger hasn't had really a great run of events. They fed her to Cyborg right away at 145 as soon as she came out of Invicta. Then they fed her to Aspen Ladd. This has not been a really good streak of fights that she's had, but I think they're giving her one that she can win. I think she has great experience. She's 19-7. I think she actually is a good talent for what it's worth, and I think that she's actually going to pick up the W against the hometowner in Lena Landsberg, who also comes out of Sweden. This is going to be kind of an interesting fight, but I think ultimately Evinger just has more skills. I think Landsberg has maybe a slight edge on the feet, but with the experience of Evinger, I think she's going to be able to shut that down, bring this thing to the mat, and exploit the ground game, which I don't believe Lena really has any, right? She's never actually gotten a submission victory. She's never been submitted herself, but I think she just hasn't gone up against the talent. Evinger has those 7 submissions, so we are picking the bus driver in this one, the triple threat Tanya Evinger. Our next fight here is also very interesting. We'll have Stevie Ray, Braveheart, fighting out of Scotland, going up against Leonardo Santos. And the reason I say this is interesting because Leonardo Santos has not fought in the UFC since UFC 204, where Michael Bisping fought Dan Henderson the second time. This is the last time this guy fought was in 2016, right? He hasn't had a loss since 2009, yet he's had a severe layoff. So I'm not really sure what happened to this guy, and I think ring rust is going to be a factor, or maybe he needed some time to, de-inflate off of some Mexican supplements. It's really hard to say. But anyways, he's going up against a really good talent in Stevie Ray. The numbers here for Leonardo are going to be old. We don't really know how, he's going to perform. He's now 39 years of age, which I think is to his detriment here. So I am ultimately picking Stevie Ray here for the numbers that I do have, even though they're obviously old now for Leonardo. I think that Stevie Ray has a slightly better hands, and I think he can hang on the ground if it goes there. We have 8 submissions for Ray. We have 9 submissions for Leonardo. I think they're very similar, but I think that Ray has the slightly better hands, and I think when this stand-up game ultimately clashes, I think Ray's going to have the slight edge here. But I am questioning that weird layoff for Leonardo. For a guy that was having such a good streak of victories, defeating Kevin Lee back in 2015 on the Aldo McGregor card, that's how long ago this was, defeated Anthony Rocco Martin. I mean, this guy has really good victories, and then he walks away from the sport for a while. I'm not sure if it was a personal thing. I don't know if it was a USADA thing. That's what I'm speculating here. But either way, I don't like Leonardo and his comeback tour here. I'm picking Braveheart Stevie Ray in Stockholm, Sweden. In our next bout, we'll have Nick the Sergeant Hine taking on Frank the Crank Camacho. And so I've said things before about what I think are lopsided fights and such, but I'm going to go out on a limb and say that we have a decisive edge here with the hands and the stand-up game for Frank Camacho. Now, he has not demonstrated that inside of the UFC, really. He has cut 2 straight losses here, one via KO head kick from Jeff Neal, 1 decision loss to Drew Dober. But he's going up against a guy who has losses himself, right? We have not had a good run here for Nick Hine recently. Nick Hine lost to Davi Ramos, and he lost to Damir Hadzovic back in July about a year ago. So these guys both have 2 losses. I think they're fighting for a place to remain on the UFC roster, and I like Camacho here a little bit more. I think his 16 KOs speak to his heavy hands versus Nick Hine's 1 KO and 4 submissions. So I think if we're looking for a guy that can shut the door, who has a high fight IQ here, I think Camacho has the slight edge. The guy does shut the door when possible. He's not perfect. He does take losses. He'll take damage. He takes risks, but he will not let a guy get out of the way. He will shut the door and close it down before it has a chance to go back the other way. And that's where Nick Hine kind of makes his stakes, right? A guy has 9 decision victories. He will sneak back in if given the opportunity, but I think Camacho shuts the door here, shuts it early, and I think we might get a knockout from Camacho to supplant himself continuous on the UFC roster. So we are picking Frank Camacho in this bout. In our next fight, we will have Devin Clark, the Brown Bear, taking on Darko Stojcic. And this is going to be an interesting fight, mostly because of my pick here. So even though everything in my heart says that this Serbian fighter, Darko, is going to win, I can't get over the numbers, and I can't get past him, whatever my heart says. I am picking Devin Clark in this fight. That's why I think it's interesting. Even though Stojcic has the better hands, I think, and he has the better record, let's not get around that either. Guy is 13-1 versus a guy against 9-3. And I think that Devin, with that Jackson Wink training, is going to have a slight edge here. I don't know if that's going to be the case in reality, but my numbers say it has to be so. The Jackson Wink fighter going against a guy that fights an MMA Red Star, just not on different levels as far as training, so I am giving the edge here to Devin Clark, but holy hell, I don't know how this thing is going to play out. I'm not really sure about this one. Either way, though, I am picking Devin Clark here, even though, again, he's coming off that loss to Rasic, whereas we have this Serbian fighter, right? This guy just stops guys. TKO first round, TKO first round, TKO first round. He's got 3 straight victories that have come via TKO in the first round. I don't know if I like Devin Clark's chances, but I know if any gym is going to put a game plan together to defeat a guy like that, it's going to be Jackson Wink. So we are ultimately picking Clark here because the numbers are relatively close. Otherwise, the Brown Bears our pick in Stockholm. This now brings us to our debuting fighters. So a little less information for these, but let's go over them relatively quick. So we have Daniel Tamor taking on what I believe is going to be a Korean phenom in Sungbin Jo, fighting out of the Extreme Combat team in South Korea. I think that this kid, I've seen his highlights. I think he's going to be devastating. I like Daniel Tamor, but I don't think he's going to be able to hang with this young phenom coming out of South Korea. The guy is explosive. He looks like he has high fight IQ. He shuts the door on guys. He has 5 KOs, 4 submissions, no decision victories. He shuts the door on guys very early when possible. He'll choke him out. He'll put him in an arm bar, and I think he's going to do something like that to Daniel Tamor. I think he's going to shut down Kid Dynamite, snuff him out, cut the fuse, and we're going to see a Korean phenom be born in Stockholm. In our next bout, we'll have very inexperienced fighters here. This is going to be a ladies 145 or featherweight division fight. We have a fighter that's 3-0 going up against a fighter that's 2-0. So Bea Malecki is taking on Duda Santana, and there's not really a lot of information about these fighters. I can tell you right now, looking at the pictures, that Bea is the more attractive of the two fighters. Take that for what it is worth. But I think that just based on the information available, I am picking Bea here. She has the hometown edge. She fights out of Stockholm, Sweden herself. I think if Dana White had to pick a fighter, he'd probably pick Bea, being the more attractive of the two. But, this was a total crapshoot. Flip a coin on this one. I'm not really sure. Maybe Duda is the better fighter, but ultimately I'm picking Bea here. I think the numbers shake out, and that's my own personal bias a little bit maybe too. In our next fight, we will have a late replacement in Rostam Akman taking on Sergey Honda Casado. And this is going to be, I think, a interesting fight. I'm not really sure what to make of it. So we have kind of a Russian sensation in Sergey. The guy's 25-5. He fights very well. He's coming off of 2 victories, going up against a guy who has never lost. He's 5-0, but he's pretty green. He does win in spectacular fashion, though. TKO, submission, TKO. And he gets it done early when possible. 4 KOs, 1 submission. And I think the last-minute nature of this, I think his, killer instinct, I think is actually going to prevail here. So I am picking the last-minute replacement, Rostam Akman. But this is going to be a tough fight because both guys are making the UFC debut. So based on information, it's not necessarily the most accurate thing in the world. But I think for what I have, I like Rostam here. I think he's going to be able to shut down a guy who has tasted defeat before. And I think he's going to pick up the W here. Also, this guy is from Sweden himself. So I think he's going to have that slight hometown edge. We're picking Rostam in Stockholm. And in our last fight, we will have Yoel Alvarez taking on Daniel Bilardo in what will be just kind of an interesting fight here. They're both fighting with similar records. We have one guy in the Spaniard is 15-2 with Alvarez, and we have the other guy, the Italian, is 12-3. So we have Bilardo making his UFC debut, whereas Alvarez has lost already in the UFC, so he's looking to avenge his loss. This is going to be kind of an interesting fight. I'm not really sure what to really make of it. I think these guys are relatively equal, but the way I see it is that Alvarez, the Spaniard, gets the slight edge here. I like him in this fight. I think he's going to snuff out the Italian, so we are picking Joel, or we're picking Alvarez in this bout. All right, so let's go through a recap of UFC Fight Night for Stockholm, Sweden. So the picks are, starting with the main event, Gustafsson, Ozdemir, Rakic, Fishgold, Evinger, Ray, Camacho, and Clark. Then for our debuting fighters, we have Binjin, Malecki, Alvarez, and Akman. Those are our picks for UFC Fight Night Stockholm. This now brings us to housekeeping. So as always, please get in touch with the Fighting Spirit Podcast at fightingspiritpodcast@gmail.com for all your questions and comments. And I want to really open things up here. We came off of these liquor reviews. I've gotten, different questions about the UFC, but you really can write me anything. I'm kind of an open book here. Feel free to reach out for any of your questions and comments. I have no problem giving life advice or anything else. You have a liquor or beer request, we also can throw that in as well. Please just reach out. Let me know what you want to hear. If you just want the same old, I have no problem with continuing to provide that excellent content to you guys and those excellent fight picks. Let's not forget that as well. Also, I'd like to make a mention here. So if you have been listening to me and you're listening to me on, iTunes or Spotify, you may have noticed the artwork has changed. So recently I had some artwork commissioned for the show, and so I'm really happy to see that. I'm really happy with it. I'm going to give a small shout shout out here to Ivenus Volatis. I know I might be butchering your name, but I found him here at behance.net/evenus. He can be found in a lot of different places. I'll spell his name out here if anybody wants to get in touch with him for artwork. The guy does an amazing job. I found it really easy to communicate with him. He had a great vision for what my idea was, and everything you're seeing now, artwork-wise, is all from him. I couldn't be happier. I want to thank you here on the show. I've thanked you via email, and I thought you did just an amazing job. So I'm going to spell his name out here if anybody wants to look him up. It's Eivinas, and then his last name is Valaitis. So reach out to him if you need artwork done yourself. The guy does amazing work. You can see it in my own artwork that he commissioned, which brings me on to my next topic. This show will now be available on the YouTube platform when you hear this. So I've gotten some requests here that a lot of people listen to podcasts via YouTube. So even though I didn't really want to split the platform and split those downloads away from Shout Engine, I am going to go there for convenience because I think that's where the audience wants to listen to me. So you will now find this on YouTube. So you can look me up, Fighting Spirit Podcast, same thing there. You'll want to look up the page. I will also provide links on Facebook, so you'll be able to grab them there as well. But go ahead, look me up. These shows will start appearing with this one you're listening to on iTunes. So if iTunes is better for you, YouTube is better for you, reach out there. Which brings me to all of our subscriptions and platforms: iTunes, Spotify, Google Play Music. You know them, love them, subscribe to them, review us. Let your friend know, try to spread the show. I'm going to be possibly picking up a little advertisement for the show. Not a sponsor, but I'm going to be maybe buying a small promo to see if we can help grow the show soon. We have this great UFC 238 card coming up, so I'm going to probably buy a little small ad campaign through Facebook to see if they, can help grow the show at all, get a few more eyeballs on it, and help spread the word that way. They keep offering me a little coupon code to, buy some, promotion from them. So I think I'm going to take advantage for this next following week. But that doesn't take us away from this fight night. So I will be back on more than likely Saturday. This fight's going to take place at 1 p.m. Eastern time, so I probably will be able to do the post-fight retrospective after the contest commences. So look out for that one. If something comes up, though, I will, of course, be back with it Sunday with your retrospective and your accountability for our fight picks. With that being said, though, I will speak to you again on Saturday, more than likely, if not Sunday. Until then, happy fight picking.